Hello, everybody. I'm Maya Trochimczyk, and welcome to Village Poets of Sunland-Tujunga reading in January 2022 already. We have a great feature, Diane Lee Moomey, and we have William Scott Galasso, editor of California Quarterly #4 of volume 47, the last volume of 2021. And we don't have many poets from that, so we'll probably have another reading dedicated entirely to the quarterly separately. And now we also welcome our regular poets from the Village Poets Group. Here with me is Alice Perot, our current poet laureate. And then we have on camera Joe DiCenzo, Pam Shea, and Dorothy Skiles. And we also have our regular reader, Tochi O'Brien, wonderful poet and artist, and some guests for Diane. So I'm very happy to have you here. Since we have a small reading, we start with, I think that's 2 poems per poet is good. We'll do 2 open mic poets first. Oh, Joe is raising his hand, so he wants to start. Okay, and after the 2 poets, I'll introduce a bio for our feature poet, and then we'll have a half an hour reading feature, and then we continue with the rest of the open mic.
I just thought I would volunteer, Maya, to help you get things rolling as well as you do. Okay. Yes, happy 2022 already, everybody. This is titled Where the Road Bends. There is an implied trust where the road bends of those who came before, of their willingness to share their failures and success, to trust they've plied a better route to ease your journey's end. Unlike a fork that demands a choice, often leading to territories unknown, the bend tells you to have faith in flexibility, to realize the shortest distance is not always a straight line, that there is no need to plow head on into the mountain that will inevitably win. There is a trust where the road bends while you're wending your way home. And this is titled, oh, thank you. I do see the the gestures of the hand, so it's greatly appreciated. And after an evening of celebrating on New Year's Eve, we have the bottle balanced upside down. We chased the moon till morning, knowing how much larger it would grow if only we drove faster. The city tucked itself to sleep as a rumpled row of cocktail napkins and empty bottles became a blur in the rearview mirror. All except the shot glass with your lipstick stain, I snuck into my vest, pretending you were Bonnie to my Clyde. The only law we couldn't break was the one that kept our bodies on the ground. It was the Everest of our lives as we stood there on its summit, basking in the pleasures of our indulgence and diversions. We tested the waters, we taunted the skies, challenging the currents to throw us off our course. The arresting stars surrendered to a curtain of twilight, like someone slowly started pouring milk into the sky. The utility poles and traffic signs no longer resembled the decorative sentinels of a magical forest of awakening. Our eyes burnished by the glare, our conscience varnished by the light, we crept back home that morning, staring headlong into the sun.
Thank you very much. And now here's Alice Perot next to me who would like to read.
Hi, everyone. So this is my unpublished manuscript shadow carving And this is from a chapter called Imperfect Fuel. When the wick is faint, the fuel low, people, too cool, begin to duel. They could stay hot in beds, could warm themselves with poems, send themselves through the air without oil or tools, having to fill and refill. We live for our vehicles, have no energy of our own. That was probably written in the 90s during a fuel shortage. I don't know. Wasn't in the 70s. I wasn't writing then.
Mm.
Gold of no substance. The calligrapher holds the past. Each stroke marks against time. The dull thud of each death erased in a poem. The permanent trace. Days that are weighted in metaphor can fly off, careless leaves like the memory of a dragonfly flight, heavy with beauty that has no beginning or end. The artist's will, as strong as the most delicate lace, indelible in memory, gold that has no substance. This is what we feed on, future's fuel.
Thank you. It's all about fuel. It's all about energy and fuel. Very nice. Okay, we don't have any. Oh, there's Tati, full of beautiful paradoxes. Okay. All right. So now, thank you very much for our readers. So now I will close the list, make it bigger, and would like to go to Village Poets. Now, Diane Lee Moomey sent me a beautiful cover for our next issue of California Quarterly. So I can say she's a great watercolor artist, beautiful artwork you can find on her website. But as a poet, she lived and wandered around the US and Canada, and now lives in Half Moon Bay, California. She co-hosts there a monthly poetry series called Coastside Poetry. And then she also offers workshops of poetry to older adults. She has published poetry in a number of important journals, the McGuffin, Light, Think, Mezzocamin, McQueen's Quinterly, Poet Talk, Caesura, and Red Wheelbarrow, and she was nominated for a Pushcart. She published 4 poetry collections, the newest of which, Make for Higher Ground, is available from Barefoot Muse Press, and we had it reviewed in our poetry letter number 4 from 2021. So this review is published online on a California State Poetry Society blog. And Diane also makes beautiful cards and collages, and she is a Renaissance woman. So let's listen to the poetry of Diane Lee Moomey.
Thank you so much, Maya. What a lovely introduction. And thank you for all you do to keep the quarterly and the letters coming out. And thank you especially for reviewing my Make for Higher Ground. That was very delightful. So I'd like to open with a couple poems about what for me are grounding and centering practices. For those unfamiliar with Tai Chi, each of the movements within the larger form, the longer form, has its own name, usually rather poetic. Sunday morning, Tai Chi class. First, stand on the bubbling well, then grasp the sparrow by its tail. Turn, spin. The white crane spreads its wings. Play the moon guitar, embrace the tiger, then return to the mountain. turn, turn. Make sure to repulse the monkey while waving hands in the clouds. Turn. The golden pheasant is standing on one leg. The fair ladies weaving at the shuttle. Spin. Now step forward and salute the 7 stars of the Dipper. Step back to ride the tiger. Spin again, sweeping the lotus gently with 1 foot. Sunday morning, Earth turns slowly on its axis while I turn on mine.
Beautiful, love it.
Thank you.
And are these names from the movements? Are these
They
tigers
are.
and lotuses and things? Wow, that's so perfect. Okay, sorry for interruption. Let's
That's
go
okay.
back to your poetry.
Okay, so the next is a short one, Origami. A simple square is folded twice and thrice, and look, a house appears. It's nothing but itself. Unfold it back to square and fold again, another house. Across each face, the creases from a previous abode.
Mhm.
I'll continue on to several observations on the interface between human and nature. Freeway Exit. Wild geese fly the 101, not quite on these 4 lanes now, north and 4 south plus median, but above us, a ragged line, its leader purposefully beating wind, long neck reaching, heading east along the exit ramp to Bayfront Park. Cousin geese wait there, surely, enough to make a quorum, enough to form the necessary V for the voyage south. Silent geese, these, what with the tires hiss and thumpings over potholes, what with the whistle of winds around my half-downed window, black beaks seem nearly open, but oh, I know they are honking. Chaparral. Your window width's enough of it tonight. Not for this hour, the bold outdoor stride of noontime, foxtail stuck to denim, the click of boot heels on small rocks, the hiking stick. Your blinds reveal the moondark slope divided into neat gray slices. When even that's too much, twist the plastic bar to lay the slats flat against the glass, turn up the radio, blot out the yucca and the sage, the calls of all that's feral. You know the wild is out there. That might be all you need tonight. And this next one is actually in the most recent quarterly. Thank you so much for choosing it and including it. Standoff. Afternoon is filled with berries. Just cicada trebling shrill breaks the dreamy silence. I am looking for the best to fill 2 pails, one in either hand, with succulent rondelles of blue. Snapping twigs, cicadas pause, all wary of my passing through. And suddenly a ragged back, a trembling takes my knees, the eye, the claws and teeth, the nose of black. Be still, they'd said, and I comply. The bear is first to call retreat. I finish picking berries, sweet. Heron, improbably on Main Street. A heron, blue, great, flew over her roof today in heron fashion, the first she'd seen to levitate above her carapace of asphalt shingles, gray. Where once Ohlone lived is pavement, is honking cars a glitter. Heron, the first she's seen this far from marsh or meadow, so far from creek or estuary, so far from meat and fish, flew in heron manner, cawed once, orange legs trailing, the wings as broad as bird is long, the plumy neck recurved, that odd, boneless S. This heron flew over the house, veered west beyond the chimney, cawed, disappeared, left human being marveling and somewhat cheered at first. Nature, then she knew, frightening, all about the fall from grace that's made the sighting of a heron now and here rare as winter lightning. In tall red grasses once I found a nest, not far from where we'd parked the Chevy. Twigs and stems were finely twined, a speckled egg was empty. I took a yellow feather, left the rest. Above my head, the grasses closed and only traffic noises told the way back. I lost the place. 20 paces west and 30 north. I supposed we'd all return this summer, or at least in fall, but I lost your speckled shell, your feathers, path, the chance to see you all. Or 30 paces south and 20 east. Just the once in this entire life have I ever asked the gift of flight. "40 days. From deep within the rows of August corn, a trill, vibrato. Every other living voice is still for just a breath. Entangled verge beside the field, in trees, among the ears, cicadas well concealed. Then locusts recommence their creaking, leaping. Sticky feet rebound off stems of thistle, chicory, and me, bare-legged, deep in milkweed. Blackbirds note. I open woody pods, set flossy seeds afloat. On porches, grandmamas weave ribbon out and in and out of eyelets, stitch and snip, pin, unpin for owners of curly-headed dolls. Yards of lace. They're fastening the ends around the tiny waists while grandpas speak in adages, chaw, lament the fish that got away. Ayup. And without a pause, it's circling. As geese fly south and north again and summer follows summer, bringing forth another incarnation of this very thistle, cricket, chicory and milkweed, ribbon, whistle of blackbird and of train, the wispy rows of corn, the grandmamas, the homilies, all circling, adorn this life. Cicada trills again from spot unknown. Ayup. It's 40 days till frost, Grandpa's intone. Am I going too fast? Okay. This is a coastside poem, so think ocean. Full moon, king tide. Breathe me in and out, draw me, take me in and out, carry, bear this body out to sea, out. Bring me back drowned, suck beneath, gone to ground, washed up, turned around on my home beach. Take my clothing, all, fling me naked out again, past the breakwater. Land me on a stranger's beach, new, rearrange the eye, keep me out of danger, or maybe not. I'm dressed in aught but your salt and sand caught between my toes. Aquanauts, the jellies, the tiny crabs that cling, abalone worshiping the moon, seal queen, king, swim corridors of pleached kelp and kombu, dulse. Each tide interprets every beach anew. On one, there was snow. These next few pieces are a shifting of gears from poems about the natural world to ones about the workplace. First, my own long ago first job. Keeping time, a chat with my supervisor. 8 hours a day, according to the state. Your timesheet can't show more, so please comply. Don't think of it as lying. Write down 8. I know you're being paid a daily rate. Work 10 for 8. Good girl. I'll clarify. 8 hours a day, according to the state, is all that you're allowed to indicate on this line here. She looks at me and sighs. Don't think of it as lying. Write down 8. I'm paid for 8. I'm working 10 hours straight. That's fine, but let me claim it, I reply. 8 hours a day, according to the state. Remember, I hold my tongue and contemplate my future. I'm 18. She rolls her eyes. Don't think of it as lying. Write down 8, and we'll discuss this at a future date. I'm confident we'll soon see eye to eye. 8 hours a day, according to the state. Don't think of it as lying. Write down 8. Oh. This next one is from the workplace of a friend, the way she told the tale to me. Friendly. A girdle, tight, with stockings nude and sheer. One day I wore black hose. They sent me back to change. Heels. The airline bought our gear. When I began, the beehive, every year they'd redesign our hair, but still shellacked, still girdled, tight, with stockings nude and sheer. Pre-women's lib, they told us our careers were short. At 35, we'd get the sack. That changed, not heels. The airline bought our gear. They loved the tight blue skirt that showed our rears. We'd often get a pat while serving snacks. The girdle helped, but stockings were too sheer. The makeup made for blue-eyed blondes, a clear mistake on eyes of brown, too blue and black. Unchanged, the heels. The airline bought our gear. I took it to Goodwill without a tear when I retired. Still am taking Prozac. The girdle, tight. The stockings, nude and sheer. No change, Those heels, the airline bought our gear. Next, I'd like to read a couple of love lost poems. And dropped stitch. Another sweater, begun as if it were for him, as if it could ever be for him, as if he would wear it ever, as if he would see it ever. The knit and pearl, angora of her life, the jute of her life. The sweater begun because the screen door has slammed for the final time and there is nothing more to say. Knit 1, purl 2. The CBC, the final news of the day. Yarn over, yarn under, tessellation of loop into loop. Somewhere in Saskatchewan, a jury is deadlocked. A crisis looms on Wall Street. The Leafs have won their third in a row. Her red wool, her white wool, fumble, unravel, purl again. Tomorrow will be cloudy with chance of rain. Purl 1, knit 2, purl 1. As sure as she knows that even the news will end sometime, the screen will go dark, and in the silence of rooms, she'll be able to hear the falling of dust as it settles on covers of books, on the pages of letters. As sure as that, she knows she'd give whatever years remain to her for the boon of ripping out that ruined row, of picking up, purl 2, the dropped stitch. Deciduous for Tim. Our paddles dip in unison. We do this well together. My bow, your stern, the dog between. We've had a change of weather and only loons are talking now. Small snow, the empty trees, the delicate bones of hills behind. The black and white of these are all around our red canoe. Our silent maple blades in synchronistic change of sides drip with small cascades, and circle after circle grows across the empty lake. Behind, a swimming beaver slaps and wake is crossing wake. You bring us in, I tie the lines, the simple tasks of docking. I'm carrying our packs ashore, but only loons are talking. The do-si-do of making camp, we do this well together, and hammer stakes in unison, unwrap the tent. We tether every corner tight, we kindle fire, cook. We meet the dark with sleeping bags, the dog between, and books. She rarely barks. We have had other winters, true. I always wondered then about our weather, when and if we'd see a spring again. Beneath the trees, our pages turn. The Coleman lantern hisses. The dog is snoring. We exchange the briefest goodnight kisses. Making coffee, breaking camp, we do this well together. But white caps, wind, and lowered skies promise heavy weather. My last few poems are somewhat lighter in tone. Strangers in flight. We're 9 across and 50 deep, and I have paid for less than 8 square feet of this cabana on the isle, a den of muted blues, such friendly skies. I'm folded neatly as an egret nesting. The drinks have passed, the food not yet arrived. And in that space, a spate of anxious bladders fills the aisle and waits, their owners listening for the clicks of opening doors, occupied, unoccupied. It's shorts and tights and leggings, Y-folds inches from my eyes, and corduroy that's creased from travel, zippered furrows, camel's feet, all await in rows. Beside the aisle, we keep our eyes on screens, our laptops, puzzles, paperbacks, and breathe the air that carries what is mostly known to lovers. Private scent of Sunday noons, the couch, croissants, pajamas, a lap, the rustle of newspaper pages. A denim pocket brushes my shoulder, and I in 40C breathe deep and watch the lighted map. You see, our wings are steady over Arkansas. It's minus 60 Celsius at 37,000 feet, heading east. Straight-laced. On being asked why I complicate my poem's message by writing informal verse. The corset has its uses. Bones and lace, the girls pressed high, now bursting from their vase, creating crevices so delicate. Tuck lavender inside, or chocolate. Above the nether zone, this garment ends. Beneath its edge, the derriere extends unfettered from the hip bone toward the knees, free to parse whatever meters please. Between the two extremes, the belly skin is stretched deliciously, sublimely thin. Dear Bard, might not a touch of S&M from time to time deliver you your gem? Before you scorn the form, consider well the whip, pantoum and sonnet, villanelle. And I have my last one is about something I've missed the most during this pandemic. Street fair. The trader speaks. We'll pitch our tents by light of sun or moon. In every land on earth, we show our wares, white canopies above, at dusk and noon. We'll drive our SUVs all afternoon, arrange our coolers, tables, benches, chairs. We'll pitch our tents by light of sun or moon to bring you terracotta, cast the runes, sell wooden toys, crocheted and knitted squares, white canopies above, at dusk and noon. Across the aisle, a woman sells balloons and puzzles, woolly sheep and teddy bears. She'd gladly pitch her tents upon the moon. Another draws the people as cartoons. A chocolatier has samples that he shares, white canopies above, at dusk, at noon. In times of plague and war, we ask this boon, O Queen Bazaar, and hope you hear our prayers. Preserve our canopies at dusk and noon. Please bless the tents we pitch beneath the moon. Thank you.
Wow, what great poetry. We love every poem. We are commenting with Alice, but then we decided to turn off the sound because we make too many comments. That was great. That was great. What a great ending. But she knows how to end the poem.
That was great, Diane. All the poems are really lovely, and your reading of them, the timing and how you did it was really perfect.
Thank you so much. I so appreciate that kind of feedback.
Yeah.
I'm really very experienced when doing online reading. I think you can pace yourself and it's very expressive. You can catch every word and kind of follow the images as they unfold. And I actually recognize Villanelle. I don't know much about the forms. I actually don't write in them at all. I haven't studied it, but that when about the 8 hours, it's awesome. I should get a copy and send it to our HR director.
Oh, yeah.
So they will stop doing this 2 hour stuff.
Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate
Good.
the
It was
feedback.
really very good. Follow the hardworking folks. Okay.
Diane, excuse me, did I hear right? You reside up near Morro Bay?
Half Moon Bay.
Half
I live
Moon
in
Bay.
Half Moon Bay, yeah.
Oh, okay. That's not quite as far north as I recall.
I'm drawing a blank. My mental map has disappeared at the moment. So
Morro Bay is like San Luis Obispo up towards there. But
that's further south, yeah.
Yeah, did you, it seemed like there were Canadian references in a lot of your wildlife that you were depicting. I recognized that, and that was very enjoyable.
Thank you. My late former husband was Canadian, and
Okay.
we lived there. We lived in Ontario and in Quebec for several years.
So you know the loon, the call of the loon. It's such an incredible sound. You know, I never thought that the duck, because duck's supposed to quack, an ugly one at that. And all of a sudden, the loon is actually singing this incredible song that echoes around the forest.
They are amazing. And when I was in high school, my family had a cottage on a small lake in upstate New York. And of course, there were loons. And our mother could mimic the loon call, and they would actually answer her.
Oh.
In the evening is when they're active. So she would stand in the door after supper, and she would call, and we'd hear the answer, and she would call. They would carry on this loon conversation for,
Beautiful.
10 or 15 minutes. It was just amazing. We all tried to do it. We couldn't do it. She just had the knack.
It's a round, much more round tone. It's not a nasally like a
no, you have to open your throat in a certain way and kind of wave your glottis around.
I won't try to do it.
That's so amazing. What we have here is when the ambulance or a police car goes on the signal with the big siren wailing, all the dogs of my neighbors start howling, and if it's nighttime, all the coyotes start howling too.
Yeah.
So we have a 20-minute concert. So it's a ambulance plus dogs plus coyote. This is our chorus here in northern Los Angeles. Very typical. The ambulance especially is a typical LA sound. There's so many of them going by all the time with police on signal or fire or whatever, and helicopters too. But then the dogs and the coyotes joining in, it was hard for me to get used to. Initially, I was terrified of the sound of the coyote. My first year, I would wake up every time when I heard them. It's like, oh my God, what is that?
They're coming for me. They're coming for me.
All right, that was great.
Better to hear a good loon call than a bad imitation of Bigfoot, you know.
That's true. Okay, Scott,
I never heard a Bigfoot call. No.
Well, today I heard, no, yesterday there was I have a toad in my garden now, and it goes, whatever the toad does, this kind of guttural low sound. And my grandson was here, so he was very interested in the sound and went to find the toad and it was talking to it. So my son recorded a little video of the two talking to each other. With their-
You froze.
No.
Everybody back?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you should be putting it up, but I don't know. Anyway, so thank you very much one more time, Diane.
Thank you so
I'm
much
looking
for
forward
having
to
me.
our further interactions because your poetry is really great. We love every poem we
Oh,
heard
thank
today.
you.
And now let's move to Scott Galasso. Even though we don't have many poets from the journal, we have the editor. So I'd like Scott to talk a little bit about his choices. So far, I got some comments saying that the journal is beautiful inside and outside. The outside is thanks to Alice, actually, because it's her friend, artist from New York, Vera Campion, who allowed us to use one of her artwork, which is really, really lovely with those tulips. She does a kind of like paper cutouts. I don't know what the technique
It's
it
a
is.
collage.
It's a collage?
Mhm.
Okay, very, very nice collages she's done. So we put a lot of these copies of her artwork on our blog also. So that's the outside. But on the inside, we have Scott's selection of poets and poems. So Scott, why don't you tell us about your issue?
Okay, would you want me to read the editor's note? Because it gives the background, of kind of how I approached it.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, so I'm just going to read it straight out, folks, so because it really explains kind of how I went about it. So I'm going to start with what might appear to be an odd choice. A quote by North Carolina's basketball coach, Jim Valvano, who was suffering from cancer at the time he made it. I've never forgotten what he said. You should do 3 things every day: laugh, think, and cry, because that's a full day. As poets, we do not merely rearrange words found in a dictionary or thesaurus and call that exercise poetry. We engage heart, mind, and spirit, hopefully expressing ourselves artistically through our shared love of language and a certain musicality. Further, we share a sense of community and a desire to be part of the natural world on a unique and beautiful planet now threatened by climate change and our own counterintuitive will to dominate the very force that gives us life. Clearly, we live in a complex modern world admixed with light and darkness. One of the elements apparent in the work that follows that we, in contrast to many, are aware of our own contradictions and in search of harmony. Sometimes we achieve it, sometimes we don't. Sometimes we falter, sometimes we rise. As editor, I wanted to include poems that were at once topical and of the moment, yet timeless. In doing so, I sought to achieve balance between what we must endure and the inspiration that gives us the strength to do so. In addition, I'm pleased to introduce works by poets not previously seen in California Quarterly, including Mark Newman, Ellen Mabey, Richard and Robbie Nestor, Gabriella Mioto, Jane Hillary, and Mike Sprake, and I hope you enjoy their work as much as I do. Further, I take full responsibility for the choices made and have no doubt that other editors might choose differently, but it is that diversity that enriches poetry and makes us who we are. Finally, it was an honor and privilege to be given the opportunity to read such fine work. And frankly, it's a challenging undertaking due to the number of quality poems received. To all the poets who submitted and the staff that guided me in the process, my most sincere gratitude. So that was kind of my approach in picking the poems. I wanted something that could make us think, but also make us feel as well. Because there's sometimes when you read work and it's very clever, but if it doesn't touch the heart as well, something's missing. And so I felt I wanted to pick out poems that could do both. And that's a tall order.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
So would
So,
you read your poem next, maybe? Because we always ask the editor to include on one of his works, and then if maybe a couple of your favorites for the issue.
okay.
And I will read two more from the issue, okay?
Okay, so this first poem, my poem, a trace is also another word for a trail or a gap or a path. In the South, the Natchez Trace is very famous, and it was the way Native Americans moved in that part of Mississippi. And so when they gave names to new places, the Trace was one of them. So this is a poem about an October trace. So this is a path in October. October traced. With every falling leaf, more sky. Silence deepens as the carpet thickens like northside moss. Or mushrooms clotting dappled trails and woods, boots muffled by acres of fading fire. Above the loam of black earth, below the sky chevroned by southbound Canada geese. Only the squirrels are busy, burying their bounty of nuts midst pine cones or spruce. And I bear witness to a year on the run as days crawl towards winter sleep. And the heart gives way to remembrance as the hearth illuminates home. So that's my piece there. And then I also included some haiku as well, and some that are also short poems. So I'll just read one of mine from that, and then there's so many good poems here. It's hard to pick out, where you're gonna go here, but I'll try and pick out a couple here. So this is actually one that's a short poem, but it's inspired by a haiku. The nail he was, the hammer he's become, Hunger Moon. So that's, something that's, I think it's pretty clear what it's about. So I'm going to read, I think what I'll do is read two that are they're back to back in the book on pages 37 and 38. The first one is called I Am Rooted in the Wind, and it's by Laura Blodgett out of Capitola. I am rooted in the wind. I cannot move from my resonant birth within deep soil, born of time, place, and substance. I am a single moment of many moments of immeasurable patterns and paradigm, a refinement of attainment fitted to nature's scheme. I stand rooted in the wind and must face the gentleness or ferocity of what may come my way. Harmonizing on Earth's stage, I sway and bend from currents of engagement and opposition that meld my balance. Measuring the inescapable truth in these winds of change that is common or extraordinary, I steadfastly secure my destiny. I stand rooted in the wind where the direction of imperfection imposes the nature of courage and stamina through the course of acquiring wisdom. I churn and thrash and blow with breezes, each gust arising in the tides of evolution that force my revolution. I stand rooted in the wind in my repose of perfection. And this next poem is by Gary Matheny, and it's right on the page next to it, because I like the contrast between the two. And this one is called Taking Flight. The barefoot boy in overalls running across the meadow flies, arms spread wide from his sides, his homemade paper and balsa wood plane in hand, and feet so fleet they hardly touch the ground. Then with a sideways hop, he steps into a throw, and the plane sails out, followed by the boy now soaring. So those are two pieces. And then I don't know what you want.
I wanted to read the one we nominated for Pushcart from
Okay,
your issue. That's Mike Sprague.
Mike's break. Okay.
Page 26, intention. Maybe you can read it because, yeah, maybe.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes, this is from Mike's break. He is a member of the Laguna Poets, and they've been together actually as a group for over 20 years. So they're a very successful group, but they didn't, they published individual book groups, but they never had an anthology out, which I'm trying to encourage them to do because their work is very fine. Anyway, this is Intention by Michael Sprague. I have traveled all the way to the rainforest, hoping I might capture some of it in line and color. I watch distant thunderclouds sweep across the tree canopy until they reach me. In the humidity, watch tree branches laden with orange flowers become engulfed with strange birds, while a hoop-skinned snake sidles its way past the indigenous wood door, flicking its tongue. Weeks have passed since I first arrived. The painting set and empty sketchbook remain, as if held by a tenfold gravity to the pine top table. The idea of picking them up and simply walking to the edge of the garden where the wilderness takes over is overwhelming. This might have been how artists felt who accompanied Darwin to the Galapagos or Amerigo Vespucci to the New World. But they, with pen and ink, gouache and watercolor, brought back images of unfamiliar flora and fauna, the lay of the land, something of the people. And I'm running out of time next to this unfamiliar world, luring me with its beguiling perfumes, its racket of unfamiliar birds, this unknown nature breathing within its own body, this symbiotic place that I find so hard to disturb. This place, should I enter, will be changed forever.
Thank you. Thank
And
you very much.
just a quick little background on this. Mike actually has a house down in Costa Rica that he hand built. Everything in it was done with his own hands. And this was a poem he wrote about when he first went down there. And he went down to paint, but then he decided he had to spend more time. So he built the house, which he goes down to once every year for about a month. And he does paint now, but he didn't want to disturb it or let anybody know where he was. It's in Costa Rica, by the way.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, so that's how the poem came about.
Very beautiful. I wanted to finish the California Quarterly reading with a poem by Denise Ross from Iowa, entitled True Light. Perhaps if I linger a while here, the rain will resolve itself into rainbows, and the pellucid air will glisten as on the first true day. The stunned horses will whinny and gallop off into the plains beyond all the fences. Birds will flash in the rainbows and do acrobatic twists and turns in the welcoming air. And I will find that gift long resting within me of knowing the deepest pull of existence and the true light which never dim, never goes out, even as the mountains wear down and wash away to the sea, and the earth itself trembles in ecstasy. I think it's a very fine poem. There's so many of them, very hard to pick. So thank you
Yeah.
very much, Scott, for introducing
Oh, my
to us
pleasure.
the quarterly, and for Diane for reading her poem from the quarterly. You, Diane,
Yes,
you're in a great
that's
company
fabulous
here,
to
I
hear,
think.
indeed.
It's a fabulous issue. So well done. And now let's move to our poets. We have Dorothy, Toti, and Pam to read the work. So let's listen to their poets right now. Who wants to go first? Dorothy, you're off mic.
Sure, I will.
Okay,
I
go
have
first.
two short ones. A fall, bloodied face and the taste of cement on my lips. A path I've taken 1,000 times betrayed me. And the second one is called Bookmark. Handwritten poem in full form on paper and folded, tucked away safely in a book somewhere in my house. What was the title? Never mind. One day, someone will find a piece of my heart between those pages.
Thank you very much. So, Toti, would you like to read next? Oh, you have to unmute you. I'll allow you unmute yourself. Okay.
Yes, I decided, looking for it, and I find it in a couple of seconds, to read this poem because it came from Alice's birthday in September, and Alice is there. It's called In Concert.
I'm here. I'm just standing up, guys.
Yeah.
I'm standing up, or was.
The title is In Concert. Had to step outside on the lawn for earth to support my weight. Earth, the thing I could trust. When I did, I perceived the incline due to the rotation, the edge, how we are always leaning into the void. Then I had to remove my shoes and feel underfoot the caress of cut grass. I understood how precarious is walking, this constant loss of balance, this in-between. I tried moving away from sound to see if it pursued me. It did, up to a certain point. I realized how the music could push me from the back like a vector towards the tall tree, the ravine, the ecstasy unknown. I realized how the sound, if I faced it with the tender part of myself, became softer by a sympathetic reaction, perhaps through its mirror neurons. Then I realized walking in circles or else tracing shy figure eights is better than not walking at all, not walking at all.
Thank you.
And the other one that I want to read is called Interlude. It is somehow connected. Cut small longitudinal splits and the twigs will become more flexible. Weaving baskets during challenging times fosters patience. 3 of us on the sofa like birds, momentarily perched on a windowsill, keeping busy until, for once, you are unrushed. You ask to stay a little more. 7 minutes? They suffice for creating the word. 7 days, swords, warriors, or sins. 7 minutes, you sigh. In your 7th decade, you have learned gentleness is what makes you a man. See how time triangulates, allowing respite. See how we don't need closure. how unfinished has become a measure of bliss. Sis and I are filling buckets with minutiae, odds and ends for the road. I am leaving the keys of this fragile shelter with you. They are weightless. Thank you.
So thank you very much. And now I'd like to hear from Pam Shea. Pam, you have to unmute yourself. Let me see yours. Ask them. Okay. Still not unmuted. Oh, there you are. Yes.
Okay. All right. I'll read a couple that I just wrote recently. I've been getting back to hiking after taking a little bit of a break from it. So I call this Orcas River Returning. Sun plays peekaboo behind trees and foothills. The wash sings a song. All get along famously as moon smiles down from above. I walk without cares. Low tree branches brush my hair. Birds scamper and sing. A ring of glowing light grows while the pace of my mind slows. My heartbeat quickens. Breath comes faster and deeper. I am wide awake, though it feels I am dreaming in this suburban Eden. And then another one from a local landmark. I entitled this Descanso in Winter. And I want to dedicate this to my daughter, who recently lost her partner. Tangled oak branches raise silent alleluias, only heard between breaths of those who sit in silence with hearts broken wide open.
Thank you very much, Pam. Thank you for sharing, and welcome to the hikes. So I think that was all the poets that wanted to read except for me, and I would like to finish our reading with one recent poem also written after walk in our Big Tujunga Wash, which is a very special place for our local area. It's a really beautiful, magical place, and you would be surprised to know it's just outside of Los Angeles. It's half an hour drive to downtown, and here we are in the wild. New Year's Day in a wash. Dry riverbed, pregnant with rain, glows with yellow leaves of ash, cottonwood, and poplar, sparkling in afternoon sunlight. A stream of gold flowing along steep hill slopes of charcoal, rock, and sparse rusted bushes. Is it still chaparral if it grows on the incline? Would I use acid, chrome, or imperial yellow, or maybe minim for medieval manuscripts if I were a painter finally able to capture the splendor on canvas? The golden river of autumn leaves at the bottom of the canyon. After 25 years here, I'm surprised by this sudden opulence. Like a 3-month-old baby, I look at the world with round open eyes. What is it? What is that? And what is this? Clouds, trees, people. What are these shapes, sensations, sounds? The mystery of seeing. That, what matters most. Life in its startling, vivid hues. That was nice, right? Because I never saw this at the bottom of the river, it's all gold. And then the slopes are dark and covered with those dried bushes. So where did the gold come from? Doesn't last very long. It's our special New Year's blessing or New Year's delight. And I use the same image of Gold River set against charcoal slopes in my haiku for the new year, which is going to be the water tiger year this time. So hopefully the water will tone down the tiger and all the fire that we're waiting for. We already had lots of turmoil. We don't need any more tiger-like turmoils. Okay, so Diane, would you like to add anything at the end? And Scott, because you are the two co-features today, and if not, we'll be closing it off. So let's hear from the two makers. Diane first.
Oh, did you mean another poem or
Or you
just
could read another poem. We still have some time. That would be nice.
if you wouldn't mind, sure.
We'll be happy. You'll have a lot of
Okay.
poems.
Gazelle, oops, I put my mic away. Now I have to put it back again. Gazelle by night, spoken quiet in the dark, a tale's unfolding. Storyteller yet unnamed, unveiled, unfolding. At 17, her legs were long and lithe. She leapt across the 7 mountains, a fairy tale unfolding. Troubadour is tuning, lute is all a hum, notes in major and in minor scales unfolding. Chambered nautilus, room by room, walls as pearly lucent as a fingernail unfolding. Deep within the cedar chest are quilts she's made. Guests arrive, velvet, silk, percales unfolding. Night bloomed jasmine. Leaves and petals are, though beset by worm and garden snail, unfolding. Beneath the Pleiades we met, and not by chance. Our thighs and shoulders were moon pale, unfolding. Fragrant envelopes, red with golden foil, surround each chocolate. Diane inhales, unfolding.
All right, beautiful unfolding. So I think it's a great note to
Thank
finish.
you. Thank you
Thank
so
you
much for
very much
having me.
for coming over.
Beautiful.
Just a pleasure to hear all your poetry, and so
Yes,
wish
and
you all the best going forward. And
thank you very much. And thank you, Scott, for reading from the quarterly. Hopefully we'll get more poets next time. So we're looking forward to that. And on that note, thank you very much for participating in Village Poet monthly reading in 2022. Thank you. Bye-bye.